Welcome to Spa. No, Spa, home of one of Formula One's best racetracks, and also, yes, namesake of the Spa. But what makes it so good? What makes any F1 track good? In many ways, it's a subjective question. In fact, I'm sure my comments feature many Spa haters enraged that it was my example of a good track despite its infrastructure problems and crashiness. No F1 track will ever have an approval rating of 100%, but nevertheless, today we're figuring out how you design a great one. There are two parts of this. First, you have to design a track that is allowed to host an F1 race at all per the sport's governing body, the FIA. They have many pages of standards required to host a Grand Prix, both to promote exciting racing and, more importantly, to guarantee some level of safety in a sport all about ripping cars around at top speed. Part two is making sure it's fun. Because in racing, the shape of the track is responsible for a lot of the action. Two football teams on any regulation field will play about the same, but differences between Formula One's track designs are the reason these same 20 guys in these same 20 cars have fundamentally different races in Spa versus Monaco versus the Rainbow Road. Side note, I know the Rainbow Road isn't real, but my writer doesn't, and I refuse to tell her. We're going to start by going over what it takes to design a legal F1 track, aka Appendix O of the FIA International Sporting Code. To host an F1 race, your track needs to be licensed Grade 1. There are 6 grades, mostly divided by the weight and power of the cars that can drive on them, with some special ones dedicated to off-road races and vehicles. Grade 1 tracks have the most rules and need to be built for the speed, power, and danger of cars that are very powerful despite being not that heavy. Now, the rules here cover way more than just the literal track design. There are standards for everything from electronic systems to spectator accessibility to emergency response infrastructure. That's actually laid out in Appendix H. We're going to focus on the track itself, but I do want you to know that every F1 track is required to have a medical center on site with, among other things, something called a pelvic binder, a high-flow shower, a doctor specializing in burn treatment. Emergency responders must have, amongst about a million other things, an electric reciprocating saw. So if you're ever at an F1 race and need one of these, ask around. There's one there. As for the track itself, it has to be 12 meters wide at all points and 15 meters wide at the starting grid and through the first corner to prevent everyone from piling up in the first lap before they spread out. To be Grade 1, the track needs to be at least 3.5 kilometers long, but usually they're more in the world of 5 to 5.5 and are discouraged from being over 7. There are no rules dictating shape, which is why some look like this while some look like this, but in the name of both safety and exciting racing, there are some rules about particular features. For example, straight portions can be no longer than 2 kilometers, and the start line needs to be at least 250 meters from the first corner, which needs a turn radius under 300 meters and a turn of at least 45 degrees. So with just those rules, you could draw a track shaped like this or this. But of course, racing happens in 3 dimensions, so there are also rules covering inclines. For example, if you're going to have a banked turn, that incline shouldn't be over 5.7 degrees. Gradients along the track are fine, but can't be more than 2% on the start/finish line, and you shouldn't have an incline change in high acceleration corners or high-speed braking zones. But lest you think this away and that away are the only ways to tilt the track, there are also regulations for the inclines you can put in for rainwater drainage, mainly that water should drain off the side, either of these ways with a slope between 0.9 and 1.7 degrees. These rules are so precise because the smallest of changes impact the cars and the race in a major way. If the water doesn't drain, the cars will crash. If you put in straights that are too long, cars that do best there will get too big an advantage. Asphalt that's too grippy will rip up tires too fast. Asphalt that's too smooth won't be grippy enough. And don't get me started on what happens if you don't have an electric reciprocating saw. Of course, there are exceptions to these rules. Baku, like some other street circuits, has a narrower track than the guidelines technically allow. Zandvoort has 2 turns with banks over 3 times the allowed slope. The Rainbow Road has a bunch of exemptions. Monaco has more. But if you're going to design the perfect track, you should probably just follow the rules. Now onto the spicy stuff. How do you design a track that leads to good, exciting races? The shortest answer is you create opportunities for mistakes. Think of it this way. Have you done trivia where the questions were too easy? Where everyone gets basically everything right and you can't recover from missing a single one? It sucks, right? A well-designed F1 track is like challenging trivia, forcing drivers and cars to the top of their game to win, and creating multiple opportunities for those in front to fail and those behind to capitalize. But what design features make this possible? In Spa, elevation changes do a lot. It's a hilly track, creating major challenges for engineers and drivers as they negotiate the inclines and declines. Another design feature that makes for exciting racing is strategically placed straights and corners. A long straight, something like 1 full kilometer, gives drivers ample space to really rip it and get close to the person ahead of them. Drop a tight, challenging corner right at the end of that long straight, and the leading car has to navigate it perfectly, or get past. And if you put a nice long straight right at the starting line, drivers that get a good start have more chance to gain on those who didn't and overtake on the first corner. Singapore's Marina Bay Street Circuit has undergone some design changes since its debut in 2008 to encourage more overtakes and excitement. It's a narrow street track with lots of tight turns, so it's super challenging for drivers and cars alike. It starts with a long straight, which used to lead into the notorious Singapore Sling, a super challenging, crash-prone corner. Over the years, they removed the sling, changed the approach to turn 13, and added a 4th big straight to encourage more and better overtakes. So making a racing-friendly track design is a matter of optimizing for overtakes and excitement, but also making all that fit within the confines of the setting you're building in. Spa has those inclines because of the landscape. Vegas is designed around using the iconic Strip as the backdrop of one of their big straights, and the Miami track has to respect the footprint of the Hard Rock Stadium, its gondola ride, a bunch of parking lots, and a bunch of real roads. To make sure their designs are actually fun and interesting and challenging to drive, track designers develop full computer simulations that allow them to try out the track in the safe, cost-effective, non-committal confines of cyberspace. Those simulations are accurate to the millimeter of the design, so they're a really good indicator of what this thing would be like if they actually built it. And it's not just people at design firms who get to do a test drive. The clients paying to build the track and even sometimes F1 teams get the chance to give it a go and provide feedback. So what, then, is the perfect F1 track design? It starts by following all the rules. Then it peppers in overtake-friendly straights and turns, but not so many that everyone piles up. It's in a cool environment with exciting backdrops, and everyone likes it in simulations. And there it is! We've created… shoot, that's my Rainbow Road. Oh well, guess we leave it to the professionals. A bad F1 track is sort of like mid-grocery store bread. It technically does the job, but you can't help but think how much better a time you'd be having with something more, well, good. If that was remotely relatable, you should check out this video sponsor, Wild Grain. It's the first ever bake-from-frozen subscription box for sourdough bread, fresh pastas, and artisanal pastries, and it's not just that their stuff tastes better, which it does, it's better for you. Easier on the gut, loaded with antioxidants, and can even lower blood sugar spikes. Can the grocery store stuff do that? It cannot. Wild Grain is convenient, delicious, and fun. Every time you build your box, you have tons of options to choose from, like Parmesan herb biscuits, or rigatoni, or chocolate croissants, all of which were so good. So if you want better breakfasts, sandwiches, and breakfast sandwiches, join Wild Grain today. Using the link in the description, you'll get $30 off your first box, plus free croissants for life. And Wild Grain will donate 4 meals to the Greater Boston Food Bank. So whether you're into discounts, doing good, or free croissants for life, you're gonna wanna sign up now.